Hello boys and girls, and welcome to lesson 1 from chapter 2, page 103, where we're looking at percent of a number. Now, by percent of a number, we're looking actually at a piece of a number, okay? If we have the amount $2,000, let's zoom in right here, okay? And we have the ratio 2,000, right? We have the number 2,000 for this scenario that we have. Some students are collecting money for a local pet shelter. The model shows that they have raised 60% of 2,000. Or we can say 1,200. Now, boys and girls, scale this down to 20. I would say that would help, because if we scale it down to 20, now please look at this. Okay, we only have right there the 20, right? If we scale it down to 20, and over here this then would be 12. Okay, so let's say we have 12 out of 20. They got the 12 out of 20. That would be, now remember, there are 5 20s in 100. Okay, if we want to make it out of 100% out of 100, we multiply this by 5, right? We have to multiply the top by 5 as well. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top, and you get 60. So that is 60%, 60 out of 100, 60 out of 100. So you know that you have 12,000 is 60%, as you're being told here, right? 60% is 1,200. Just change this, add a couple of zeros to it, and you have your answer. Now let's try that with the rest. Please remember to scale 1,600 to 16, scale 1,200 to 12, 800 to 8, 400 to 4, and you have the 0 there. And you make these, all of them, make them out of 20, okay? Okay, let's use the same trick to scale 1,600. Let's scale it down to out of 20, right? So then, like here we have 20, right? Let's scale this down to 1,600. So it would be 16 here. Again, don't forget that we have 5 20s in 100, so we multiply it by 5. Let's multiply this by 5 as well. When you multiply 5 times 16, you get 80, right? Because 5 times 10 is 50, and 5 times 6 is 30, and you add the 2 and you get 80. So that would be your 80% that you have right there. Do you see that? Okay, 80%. Now to change that to a decimal, okay, let's take those 0 out. So now we have 8/10ths, right? So as a decimal, it's 0.8, 8 in the 10th place. And as a fraction, you already know that it's 8 over 10. Simplified, you can cut them both in half. It's 4/5, right? 4/5. Okay, let's keep going. To 1,200. It's 12 out of 20. If you were to look at the hundreds, we have 12 out of 20. So let's copy down our 12. And when we multiply it by 5, we get 60. And as you can see, yep, it's correct. It's 60%. Okay. If you want to make it out of 10, okay, you have your, it's 6/10ths. So it's 6 in the 10th place. And it is 6 over 10 as a fraction, or simplified, you divide them both by 2, and you have 3/5. Okay, let's do 800. Scaling it down to 8 out of 20, we have 8 out of 20 right there. We multiply it by 5, and we get 40. I can take away this 0 and this 0, and now I have 4/10. Now, don't forget, it is 40 is 4, right, in the 10th place, right, and it's 4/10 here, but simplified, you guys can go right to it, it's 2/5, right? You divide them both by 2, the numerator and the denominator. And lastly, we have 400 right there, which it would be 4 out of 20. Okay, so we write the 4 out of 20, we multiply it by 5, it gives us 20 out of 100. Okay, take away the zeros, and we have 2 in the 10th place. So, 2 in the 10th place. Okay, which would be which would be 2/10ths, right? But simplified, when you divide them both by 2, you get 1/5. And that's the way we can do it, boys and girls. Like I said, the trick here that I did was I just scaled it down to 20. Okay, let's try number 2. For number 2, we're being asked to use the model to write 2 multiplication sentences that are equivalent to 60% of 200. So how do we do this so that we find? Well, let's convert the percent to a decimal. You know that it's 60%, so it's 60 out of 100, so it's 60 in the 100th place. Alright, so it would be like this. 60 in the 100th place. But don't forget that you don't have to write the 0. Okay, you can just simply write 6 in the 10th place, but it would be 60. So then you take that 6 in the 10th place and you multiply it by the 2000. Okay, when you multiply it, because as some of you have learned in the past, whenever we see a percent and we see the word off a number, that implies multiplication. Don't forget that. So if I say 4% off, let's say of 20, I'm actually saying 0.04 times 20. That's really what I'm doing. When I multiply 0.6 times 2000, you can punch that into your calculator, you'll notice that you're going to get 1,200 or 1,200. Okay? Another way to do it could be as a fraction. We know that 60% is 3/5. Okay? If you don't know why it's 3/5, look here quickly. Let's say we have 60%, right? 60%. And then I take that 60%, I make it 6 out of 10. And then when I simplify and divide them both by 2, I get 3 on the top and 5 on the bottom, and there's your 3/5. Okay, so 3/5 times 2,000. Okay, you can do it like that. Remember to turn this into a fraction, you put it over 1, and then you cross reference how many 5 are in 2,000, and then you multiply straight through. And when you multiply straight through, you're going to notice that you get 1,200 as well. Okay? And for your key answer, go ahead and draw Marena. She saw this big dog and she thought it was a horse. Okay, let's try these questions on page 104. Now we have 40% of 70. 40%, remember 40%, when we change it to a decimal, it's 0.4. And then we're going to replace the word off with the multiplication sign times 70. Okay? You'll notice that when you multiply, you get 28. Now, another way to do it would be like this, boys and girls. You know that 40% means 40 out of 100, right? So that's an equivalent fraction. 70 is the maximum number that we're looking for. 70 would be our 100%, right? Well, what would be the 40% of 70? That's the number we're looking for. So what we do is we work backwards. What did I do to the 70 to make it into 100? Let's divide it. So you're going to divide 70 by 100. When you do that, you get 0.7, right? You get 0.7. That's essentially what I did to the 100 to make it into 70. I literally multiplied 100 times 0.7, and it gave me 70. So let's do the same thing to the 40. 0.7 will give you 28. And there you go. Okay, for B, we have 15% out of 100. We can do it two ways. We can do 0.15 times 100, or we can do an equivalent fraction. 15 over 100 of 100 over, or 15 over 100, okay? It would be 15 as well, because we didn't do anything to the 100, so we don't do anything to the 15. Okay? But it's 15 hundredth. They're asking us to find the percent of each number, okay? It's 15 out of 100. 15% is 15 out of 100. So, and when we multiply decimal 15 times 100, the decimal just simply moves over 2 places, and you will have 15. Okay, in your textbooks, I want you to try C and D both ways. Multiplying by replacing the off with multiplication sign and changing this to a decimal, so 0.55 and 0.75 times, and also try it by equivalent fraction, 55 over 100 and 75 over 100, which would be blank over 160 and blank over 280. As you see right there. Now you can pause this so that you use these techniques, okay? Write all 4 of these down, and then solve, okay? On page 105, you'll notice that we're working now with above 100. So this is 150%. This is much more than 100%. So remember that when we look at the whole number has always represented 100%, okay? This has always been our 100%, the maximum number. The same with this 35. This has always been our 100%. But we're looking for a number bigger than it. We're looking for a number bigger than 20 and bigger than 35 because clearly we're looking for 150. So we got 100%, which would be 20, right? We got the 100%, we know equals 20, but then we have an additional 50%. Well, what is 50% of 20? What is 50% of 20? Okay, what is it? Well, we know that this means half, right? So what is half of 20? Well, half of 20, boys and girls, is 10. And you know that, right? So when we add both of these up, we get our 100% and we get our 50% for 150%, which is 30. So 150% of 20 is 30. You add them up. Okay? So our answer here is 30. Another way to do it is, when we try to change the 150 to a decimal, it's more than 100, so it's more than the whole. It's actually 1.5. Because remember, the decimal place moves over two numbers, and they would be right between the 1 and the 5, as you see right there. Okay? And then you replace the off with the multiplication sign and 20. And when you multiply that, 1 times 20 is 20, and half times 20 is 10, which gives you in total 30. That's another way to do it. Let's do F. Same concept. You already have 100% in here, so you know you're going to need 35. So you need at least 35, right? And now you need 60% as well. Okay, this is 100%, right? And now you need another 60% because it's 160% in total. What is 60% of 35? You can do 0.6 times 35. That'll give you an answer, okay? You can do 60 over 100. Is the same as 35 over a number. Okay, that'll give you the number as well. But also, here's for the ones of you that are actually very good at fractions and percents. You understand that 60% is 2/5. 60 out of 100 is it's 3/5. It's 3 over 5. This is 3/5, right? If you know that this is 3/5, what is 3/5 of 35? Well, 3/5 of 35 is the same as multiplying by 5s. Can this be broken into 5s? Of course it can. When you divide it into 5, you get 7s. You get 5 of those 7s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I want to know 3/5. 3/5 is 21. 7, 14, 21. Okay? So 3/5 of 35 is 21. Now we have our 100%. Right? Our 100% we know is 35. We know that right there. Okay? Our 100% is 35. And our 60% is 21. Well, just add them both up, boys and girls, and you get 56. And that's your answer. 160% of 35 is 56. I just showed you a few different ways to do it. Please show me the way you chose to do it. Okay, finally on page 106 we have a word problem. This is where we take our skill and we put it in the real world content. Mr. Sudimak earned 4% commission. Commission means you make this for selling something. He's making 4% of whatever he sold. So 4% commission on the sale of a hot tub that cost $3,755. How much did he earn? Well, 4%, boys and girls, 4% is 0.04. Don't forget that it's 4%. It's 4 out of 100. So 4 in the 100th place. Okay, don't forget that. 4% is 4 out of 100, which means 4 in the 100th place. Okay, times, because we're going to replace 4% off this. So we're replacing the off with multiplication. 3,755 equals 150.2. Now, this is money. This is money, so we have to actually write it in the form of money, and we need a therefore statement. Therefore, Mr. Sudimak earned $150.20. Don't forget to write this in cents. $150.20. Okay, that is all for now, boys and girls. Do not do the study guide. I mean, not the study guide.